So my mum was very alternative when she started at uni. She was, she dressed in like a gothic style, and she was, you know, someone that she felt like she didn't really fit in anywhere. And she came here and she had such an amazing experience. And when I came here, I had that exact same feeling.
G'day and welcome to the Choosing Your Uni podcast. I'm your host, Rob Malicki, coming to you today from Whadjuk Noongar country in Perth in Western Australia. And I'm really pumped to be back on the campus of Murdoch University and to be sitting in what's quite honestly a spectacular new building since the last time I visited, the Bulla Catagen building. And joining me today is Sam, who's from the News and Communications team. Thanks for joining me, Sam, on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
This is an extraordinary space we're sitting in. I remember seeing the announcement when it came. Tell me a little bit about the Bulla Catagen.
So Bulla Catagen, which is the Noongar term for like a place of learning and meeting and learning, it is one of the most beautiful buildings. Also won Best Academic Building earlier this year. But basically, this building kind of represents a few key things for Murdoch. So things like we're really passionate about sustainability and we're really passionate about amplifying First Nations voices and spaces. So this building's made out of recycled timber. And it is the largest building, I believe, on a university campus. And it is
made of timber, I'm assuming.
Made of timber, yes. And it is kind of a multi-purpose space. So that we have obviously cafes and we have restaurants and things in here, but we've got tons of study areas and breakout rooms, which I think that has been such a highlight of this space because it's a place where you can come and you can sit in, you know, a beautiful breakout room with, you know, friends, colleagues, but you also get a view of the Belia wetlands, which is one of the most beautiful places, I think, in WA. So we've got that beautiful vision of country. And we also have this kind of high-tech space where we've got interactive learning screens and lectures are given in here. So it's kind of a massive multi-purpose hub. And you'll see people in here all year round, even when it's a break, even when there's exams on. Like, this is kind of the heart now of Murdoch, I think. And
that's saying something because the Bush Court, of course, which is that incredible central courtyard, one of the most lovely central courtyards of all the universities in Australia, in my opinion, that's obviously been the centre and beating heart of Murdoch. So for it to, it's just shifted around the corner. It hasn't shifted very far. But, you know, once you're sitting in here, this description is for people who are listening to this rather than looking on video, but I mean, the wood panelling is utterly magnificent. These huge beams holding up the wood. There's so much empty space, you know, really high ceilings. It's glass everywhere, so it's flooded with natural light. Where we're sitting up on the fourth floor, I'm sort of looking down through some windows. I can see students all chilling around this like dark panelled wood area, lovely chairs. They're just doing some work, hanging out together and studying. It's got just this awesome vibe. And I just love the sort of connection to country. That's so important in where we're up to, I think, in Australian society right now. So hats off to Murdoch for investing in such a great space.
It is such a beautiful space. And something I also wanted to mention is, so on this fourth floor where we're sitting right now, which is just got the most beautiful view, we have an event space called the Dr. Rosemary Vandenberg Room, named after Dr. Rosemary Vandenberg, who was an amazing academic, Aboriginal academic, and she is actually the grandmother of our Pro-Vice Chancellor of First Nations, Chanel Vandenberg. And it is such a beautiful space, and the space is overlooking that beautiful wetlands, and it's such a beautiful ode to her. And she's someone, so she taught for a while at our bridging course, K-Track, and it is such an ode to her as a trailblazer, as a matriarch, as all of these things. And it's so nice to feel like that kind of energy incorporated into this building as well.
Yeah, it's like connection back to country. I mean, we're so fortunate in this country to have 60,000 plus years of Indigenous First Nation, the longest continuous culture in Australia, in the world, sorry, I stand corrected, in the world. And to have that is so valuable. So it's great to see that coming to the fore. Let me jump in on something you just mentioned there, K-Track. What's that?
So K-Track is a bridging course for Aboriginal students, and it is part of Coolbardie Aboriginal Centre. And we have such amazing academics working there. And we also have School of Indigenous Knowledges, which is offering a minor in Indigenous Knowledges and a co-major at the moment. And that is really bringing in this kind of amazing knowledge, which is, again, more than 60,000 years old, different ways of learning and communicating with each other and passing on that knowledge. It's such an amazing space. And Coolbardie, actually, I have a great story about Coolbardie. So our Dean of Indigenous Knowledges, Jenna Woods, she arrived at Coolbardie when she was 19, and she was a mother that was escaping family violence. And she went into Coolbardie and did such an amazing job there. And she is now our Dean of Indigenous Knowledges. And she said that they call Coolbardie Nan's house. So it feels like you're coming home, and it's a place where Aboriginal students can connect with each other, connect to country, connect with their culture. And it's just such a beautiful space. Like when you go down to Coolbardie, it's everyone's favourite place to be because it's just such a beautiful energy and such, a special place for learning. So that's one of our best kind of places on campus.
Perfect. What about other pathways to Murdoch? So we'll get into the guts of areas of strength and all that kind of good stuff in a moment. Particularly interested to dive into where the research is going on. We'll talk more about research in a sec. But since it's come up as sort of pathways to uni, for those students who maybe aren't going to hit the ATAR that they want, what are some of the alternative options for them in terms of getting in here?
We have quite a few. I actually went through one myself. So I went through On Track, which is a post-grad. So once you've finished, you can sign up, and it is like a uni prep course that goes over a certain period of time, and then you get entry into the degree of your choice. There's obviously some places that are limited, so you have to kind of work a little bit around some of those courses. But once you've finished On Track, you go in, and what I think is great about On Track is it prepares you, it shifts you into a uni mindset. You come out, especially if you're just out of school, if you go into On Track, you're not in uniforms. You're not being like micromanaged and hounded for your assignments. You have to independently work. And they teach you really core skills like referencing, which I don't know about. I mean, maybe my high school was just a little bit different in that space, but I was so underprepared when I got here. And that was kind of like, not only was it a great introduction to uni life, to campus, I started my first year of uni knowing the campus really well because of On Track, but it was also just, it got me into a space where I was ready to undertake my first year and do those assignments. So On Track is one of our courses. We also have FlexiTrack High, and Learning for Tomorrow. So those two courses are high school, so you can start in high school. Yeah, so that's they're great courses as well. And obviously we have K-Track, and we also have like a life experience-based entry program as well. Yeah, so we have an alternative pathways portion of our website that has all the different ones, and it will tell you which one kind of suits you best. On Track is the one that will suit most people that have finished high school and maybe aren't happy with their ATAR, or even if the stress of ATAR has really, because I totally empathise with that. The stress of ATAR is quite intense, and sometimes people don't tell you that there are other ways to get into uni, that it's not the be all and end all, and if you don't get the result that you desired, that you can still get here. So we have a lot of flexible pathway options, and that's something that Murdoch's really passionate about, keeping strong.
One of the things that's always struck me coming here is the sense of community. And, when we first connected today, as I'm sort of coming onto campus, I'm just like, I feel like I'm back in the vibe here, right? And coming into this amazing space is like a continuation of that as well. And it always struck me that Murdoch seems like that kind of institution that really knows its place and who it serves.
Yeah.
Is that a fair comment?
Absolutely. I think one of the things I love most about Murdoch is that, this is something that my friend Em Reedman from the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion team said to me. They said that at Murdoch, if you drop your books, there's going to be about 50 people running over to help you pick them up. It is one of those spaces where your tutors know your name. They respond to your emails. They, add a little fun fact about their day. It doesn't feel like you're one of many. It feels like you're a member of this community. And something that I've heard a lot from working in comms from students is that they feel like they really fit in here and belong here, which is such a nice thing to feel when you come into a university, because you're going to be spending some time here, right? Like if you're going to do a degree, it's going to be a couple of years, And you want to feel like you fit in here, and you want to feel like, and I think another thing that really includes that culture, that community, is we'll do every Thursday, we have a market day, and there's small businesses coming to sell little pins and donuts, and, you know, it's the vibe of a Thursday is everyone coming together. And, you know, some people come in on their scheduled days off or on their, you know, study break because they still love being here, which I think is a really special element to Murdoch. So I think that's fair comment.
Let's talk about a little bit about locations. Murdoch obviously has a number of campuses. So here we're at the South Street campus, about 15 kilometres south of the CBD of Perth. Is that about right?
Yeah.
And the train that kind of runs straight down the Kwinana Freeway stops, you know, a stone throw up the road here. So getting here is pretty easy. The other thing that I love about this location is about 5 kilometres that way towards the west, you hit the ocean. The amenities in the ocean, so close to Fremantle. It feels like just a really nice, chilled part of Perth.
Totally. It's really, and also it's really easy to get to. Like, the public transport system here is amazing, which is really handy. And even if we've got lots of places to eat on campus, but if, you know, you are so close to everything, you're close to shopping centres, you're close to, you know, dentists and doctors, and it's a really great area to be in, I think.
If somebody were moving to come to study at Murdoch, that might be someone moving from interstate, and we'll get onto some of the academic areas of disciplines where the uni is really strong, but also from overseas. Do a lot of people end up living close to the uni, or do they end up living somewhere else? And sorry, this is a very general question. You can't speak categorically, of course, but just as a broad sweep, is this the kind of area where people live, or do they end up sort of commuting down from somewhere else?
I think, there's definitely commuters, but I think a lot of people do end up close to Murdoch, and a lot end up living in our student village as well, which is just kind of at the back of our campus and is really, you can wake up at, 8:25 for an 8:30 class and get there on time. So a lot of people do utilise the student village, or the suburbs around here. People will rent or share a house and things like that. That's pretty common. And there are some people that commute a couple of hours. It is definitely a mixed bag, but a lot of the students I've spoken to recently, especially the ones that have made big moves from, say, they were living in remote communities and things like that, they've come to live in the student village.
Can we talk really quickly about student village? If someone did want to try to stay on campus, I'm a big advocate nowadays. I'm going all over the place here, but for years I was just like, why would you live on campus? And I totally shifted on that a couple of years ago. I'm just like, that's actually the best way to experience uni, in my view. I think I was kind of like put off by that kind of classic American stereotype of a college experience. And in fact, living on campus gives you so much more. It's not just party, party, party. Some people do a little bit of that, but it's definitely not necessarily the flavour. And I've become a big advocate for it, just to really get into the uni experience, if that's your jive. If somebody were interested in coming and living on campus, where would they find out more about that?
So that would also be, we've got a section of our website about that. So if they were just to search Student Village Murdoch Uni, it would take them to a landing page where they could learn a little bit more about that experience.
I've just seen I've talked to so many people who just said it's one of those things that defined their life. Particularly people maybe who needed some help with the transition. Instant ready-made community, able to engage the 5-minute walk to class. You can't complain about that.
Exactly. And I think the other thing is, I was speaking to a few we've got some students that are part of a new scholarship that we've got called the Brighter Futures program. So one of those students, I was chatting with her about her transition to Murdoch, and she did move. It's the first time, and a lot of these students, it's their first time living out of home. So it's moving in close with other people. And this student said to me that she met her best friends because she accidentally set the fire alarm off. And so her and the others that were living in that particular house all came outside because she'd set making her noodles, and that's how she made her best friends, which I just thought was such a classic uni living situation.
There you go. Tip for young players. First time on campus, you want to meet people, set off the fire alarm by burning some toast, and you're guaranteed to have some wins.
Instant best friends.
Instant best friends.
Yeah.
How good's that?
G'day, it's Rob here. Hey, are you a parent or a carer of a student that's thinking of going to uni in the years ahead? Did you know that Choosing Your Uni has a whole bunch of resources that are just for people like you? And you can find those at parents.choosingyouruni.com. You're going to find things like links to our Facebook community, downloadable worksheets, and heaps of advice by parents for parents. It's all the sort of stuff that you need to help guide your student on their journey to uni and beyond. Check it out now, parents.choosingyouruni.com.
Let's maybe segue into some of the areas that Murdoch is really well known for. I mean, I've got some that are kind of my favourites, but I don't want to taint your own opinions. Yeah, what's this institution kind of really well known for?
I think one of the main ones, which I think a lot of people will know about, is we are the only vet school in WA, and our vet program here is absolutely incredible. We have the animal hospital at Murdoch University, TAMU, and that is a running, working vet hospital. And a lot of the people that are working there are also the tutors, and the students get this kind of hands-on experience where they're in a vet school, which is like they are in a working place, which is so amazing. So they've got an emergency vet there, and they've got all these clinical spaces. They've got small animals, they've got large animals, and that's definitely something Murdoch's known for, is the vet school. And just the staff are so phenomenal and so passionate about teaching the next generation of vets, and also just keeping that work-life balance and really teaching those skills on top of the skills that it takes to be a vet, because obviously that's a very high-pressure job, and that's something that they take really seriously, which I think is amazing. So our vet school is definitely a big highlight.
And then that, I guess, ties into the agriculture program as well, because there are also satellite campuses for Murdoch a bit down the road as well that sort of deal with agriculture.
Absolutely. And so our agricultural, it's really funny actually, because a lot of students will go into animal science because they want to get into vet. Maybe they didn't get the ATAR that they wanted and they wanted to get into vet, and they'll start in animal science, and so many end up in agriculture because they start studying the units and they fall completely in love with it. And they then just go into this space. We've got one student who is working on her, I believe it's master's, might be PhD, but she's working on edible sheep shelters. And
okay, pause. Sorry, you've seen that on my face, and I've just had those people watching the video will see me just kind of go, what?
Edible sheep shelters.
Edible sheep shelters.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
So this is helping sheep kind of get through harsher weather conditions. So it's shelters that keep them safe, and it also doubles as food. And she just won an award actually for her research. She's amazing. Her name's Georgia Welsh, and that research, because obviously I talk to a lot of people doing research in my job. That's kind of the main thing that I do, is talk to people that are doing research. And she told me that she'd started in animal science, and she had, on her first day, she saw one of the lecturers talking, and she just was like, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do. This is amazing. And then she's taken it so far, and now she's researching in the space. She's making this impact in this space that she never would have thought to sign up for to begin with. So I think that's really beautiful as well.
It's such a great story. And, coming back to what you're saying about, don't stress so much about the way in and everything, because when you get here and you meet that passionate person, suddenly you realize the world is just full of open doors for you.
Absolutely.
And when an academic like that opens the door and suddenly it's like edible sheep shelters, and suddenly you're like, holy smokes, I never even knew that existed.
Yeah. And
down that rabbit hole you go, and that becomes you. And that's the thing, I think, before you come to uni, you just have no concept of the depth that's in a place like Murdoch.
Absolutely.
That you can actually tap into.
No, that's what happened to me. So I started in a different degree. So I started in theatre, and I went to a lecture because a lot of theatre and literature units overlap. And I feel like I'm name dropping a lot in this, but I went into a lecture theatre, and Dr. Anne Surma was giving a lecture, and I am not kidding. I walked out of that lecture and I changed into the English and creative writing degree because I found her I was like, I want to be her when I grow up. And that was something that just completely changed the trajectory of my life, because I walked into that lecture theatre and just went, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do.
It resonates so much. I did almost exactly the same thing, but over on the East Coast with the biology degree, went to first year biology, and I was supposed to be doing something else. And I was just like, these people are amazing, and basically walked down and changed my degree on the spot too. So when you say that, like, I'm getting goosebumps.
Oh my
because
gosh.
It's the truth, isn't it? It's like the truth. You actually think you know what you want to do, and you rock up to uni, you end up in a couple of classes you never even imagined, and suddenly your entire world just will change.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
That's something I love. I love that about uni. I love it.
So tell me more. Okay, so we've talked about edible sheep shelters. Let's talk about some of the other areas, the other fields of study that this institution's. And once again, a little note for listeners, Murdoch is quite a comprehensive institution. You can study a lot of stuff. So when I say what's it, inverted commas, famous for, it doesn't mean that there aren't a number of awesome areas across the board. I'm just sort of picking out some of the highlights. So what are some of the others, Sam?
So I think some of the others, and I think these are spaces where there's also a lot of hands-on learning, which I think is amazing. So we have the IIID Infectious Diseases Centre, where a lot of people that are studying medicine, biomed, things like that, they can go into this lab and they can have that hands-on experience there. So that's definitely a course that is very popular and also has that hands-on element. And I think that's something Murdoch's really good for, is getting people out and into that kind of hands-on learning.
Because let's face it, who doesn't want to just play around with deadly viruses?
Totally. Who doesn't want to pick up one of those beakers and what's that? But that's definitely one of them. And nursing, we have an amazing school of nursing we've just started an enrolled nursing pathway. So this is where enrolled nurses can enroll in this course to become registered nurses in the clinical space, so they can then go on to be RNs, and it's a compressed version of the degree because they've already got that clinical experience. So the nursing school, and they have a sim lab where you go in and it's a hospital, but it's a sim lab that has dummies in the beds, and it's got all of these interactive elements where they're not stepping into their first day of work going, oh my God, what am I doing? So our nursing school is another one that I think is really, really important to point out. And we also have an amazing space for media and communications. So we've got, and I think this is another thing that's really great, there's podcast studios, there's film studios, there's editing suites, there's pretty much everything that you can imagine down there that those students get to use, and they get to create that content. So that is something that is really, really amazing. And yeah, I think those are some of the biggest ones. And we do a lot of research into bugs, which I find...
Oh, yes. You've jogged my memory on that. That's true.
We do a lot of bugs.
Yeah.
And so we have some amazing experts. We have experts that are looking into why mosquitoes prefer certain types of blood, so why you might smell good to a mosquito. We have a researcher that is working to save native bees, because something that she taught me, so this is Freya Jackson, she's a PhD candidate here, and she taught me that more than 70% of bees live underground, not in hives. And so I didn't know that. I thought kind of most of them lived in hives, but the reason that native bees are dying out is because there's been this kind of uptake in either fake lawn or obviously industrialization, and the bees don't have anywhere to burrow. So our insect researchers are so amazing. And then the last thing that comes to mind, we've got a bioplastics innovation hub. So that's with CSIRO, so CSIRO and Murdoch. It's a partnership. And the students that are working in this bioplastic space are absolutely incredible. This lab, I'm going to send you pics so you can see it, because it's amazing. And all of the students are learning how to break down plastic. And they've got different enzymes, they've got different bacteria, and they're all trialing how to degrade this plastic and return it so that it's nothing and it's not making any environmental impact. And we have a student that moved from Egypt because the Nile River is one of the most polluted rivers in the world. And Joseph Bokta, also PhD candidate here, he moved from Egypt to Perth to join this bioplastics team and study in this space to learn how to depollute the Nile River, which I think is another amazing story.
I love the kind of mission-based researcher.
Totally.
And one of the reasons I like to try and tease this out on the podcast is because I really believe that if you've got a passion for an area, you should always try and align your interests with the interests of what an institution is really at the cutting edge for.
Yeah.
Because then when you go there, then you suddenly, the door opens and, you realise that the English literature professor or the theatre person or the bioplastics person is your thing. But you really stumble into that when you align your interests with the strengths of an institution. And that's about cutting edge research. Is there anything else that's come across your desk where you're just kind of like, this is and whacked out in a good way, not in a bad way, but just kind of like, I can't believe that we're doing that?
There's been some big highlights over my time here. I'm trying to think of the best ones.
I'll give you a moment to think. The one that jumped out at me, I'm a biologist by undergraduate training, and I've always loved the marine bio program here at Murdoch, as an external person, of course, but just seeing the impact. I know people head up the coast from here up to mind blank, holy smokes, it's the best place in the world. Ningaloo. How could I forget it? Ningaloo.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. But the work that's been done on seaweeds, on whale sharks, on fill in the blank is really like world class.
Oh, absolutely. And we had one of our research teams, they tracked the whale sharks in Ningaloo with tags, and it actually showed that Ningaloo's tourism is conducted in a way that is sustainable and has very little impact on whale sharks. So that's kind of something that people who love whale sharks and love that kind of travel and that kind of element where you get to go swim with whale sharks, there's obviously that thought of, is this something that the whale sharks are, suffering with? And this study showed that there's very minimal impact, and actually the shark spends very minimal time near humans. So that was kind of a way of, I guess, monitoring that shark behavior and also monitoring the human impact on the shark's behavior as well. That was a really interesting piece that came out of that school, and they're constantly doing amazing things with sharks, dolphins, and we've got an amazing dolphin researcher who works down in the Peel. This is Dr. Krista Nicholson, and that's where I'm
what's
from.
The Peel, just for anyone who doesn't know?
So the Peel region is Mandurah, and I think that down that way.
South of Perth.
Yes, south of Perth. And she works with the marine warriors down there, and she looks after the dolphins, and she also she helps any dolphins that have been stranded. Her big thing is fishing line and entanglements, and she researches those pods of dolphins and stuff like that. So, yeah, there's amazing research coming out of there.
You obviously get to see quite a lot of these, Sam, but is there somewhere where people can go to, I don't know, stay on top of what's going on in terms of cutting-edge research?
Oh, absolutely. If you want to read research stories, so if you search Murdoch Uni News, we have a news page, and that is kind of where we post all of our media releases and all of our research, and they also are connected with the schools. So if you read a piece of research on there and you're like, oh, I want to do that, you can click onto the school and go to the relevant study area too.
That's such a good thing. I literally never thought about that, but I reckon that's a cracking piece of advice for pretty much anyone. Like if you're at high school, or if you're out of school, looking at doing mature age entry or postgraduate, if you're thinking about choosing an institution, get on their news website, pop in your email address, and stay on top of the latest news coming out of that institution, because at least that way you can really be connected to exactly what's going on.
Yeah. And I think, and also our researchers are super open to chatting to curious potential students. Like if you see a piece of research and you're wondering which units you need to take, which space you need to go into, our researchers are super, super keen to have that kind of connection. So sending an email is totally something that our researchers would respond to.
Let's dive into a little bit about student life. And I know we've already talked about this wonderful space here. We've talked about the bush court, talked about market days. What about things like clubs and societies and other elements of student life that make it special and unique to study here at Murdoch?
So there are lots of, and market day is another big part of this. A lot of our clubs have a market day stall, which is great, but pretty much every discipline, every hobby that you can imagine has a club or a society attached. There's a writers club. There's, Murdoch Community Gardens, which they meet every Tuesday. So Murdoch Community Garden is located near our horse stables and areas. So it's a little hidden corner, and it's run by Dr. Janine Sproul, who is one of our education lecturers. And every week, her and the rest of the Murdoch Community Garden group, which is made up of students from all different disciplines, will go to the garden and they will pick everything that they've grown, and they will sit down and they will cook it and have a meal together, which is so beautiful. They said they never miss a Tuesday unless it falls on Christmas Day. So they gather every week. And what I think is really special about that is it's not necessarily all students that are in agriculture or all students that are in conservation. It's students from all different areas that have that common passion, and they come and sit together, and one girl will go brew some tea, one will fry up the vegetables, one will make a dip, and they'll all sit down. And the videographer and myself, our videographer and I, we went down to the community garden, and they welcomed us with open arms, and we sat down, and it was just such a representation of something that you come in for on your day off. That's another example of somewhere that you can go and you can be completely yourself, and people were so welcoming and so loving. And I think especially because uni is scary sometimes when you're just starting out at uni, or maybe you've moved away from home, or you've moved from a different country. Having somewhere that you can go and you can connect with people and you can just be authentically yourself is so important. We also have our international cafe, which is part of the Den. And our international cafe is a place where international students and domestic students can come together and celebrate differences in culture. We just had the Diwali festival and people got to come and sit down and experience that culture together. And that is another just such a beautiful place where people can find that slice of home. I think that's so important for a university to really embrace that.
Awesome. As you talk about Murdoch, I can see like the enthusiasm, right? Like you love this place.
I do.
What is it that got under your skin?
So I think one thing so my mum went to Murdoch. So she was here. She started on the 10th anniversary and we've just had our 50th anniversary.
Awesome.
And I work here now. And I also studied here. But something my mum said is, so my mum was very alternative when she started at uni. She was, she dressed in like a gothic style, and she was, someone that she felt like she didn't really fit in anywhere. And she came here and she had such an amazing experience. And when I came here, I had that exact same feeling. It was instantaneous. I felt like this was a place where I could spend a lot of my time. So I did my undergrad here, my master's here, I work here. This is somewhere that I just really love, and I'm just so passionate about people that maybe don't know where they would fit, knowing that this is a space where they can come and I'm certain that they would. So I think that's something I'm very, very, I love it here.
I reckon that's a perfect place to wrap up on, Sam. Thanks for joining me on the Choosing Uni podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
At Choosing Your Uni, our mission is to make finding your ideal institution and your degree fun, easy and stress-free. So if you're looking to save some time, to discover more and to get personalised advice for every step of your journey, check out choosingyouruni.com. Our theme music is composed by Pasha Shogi and his band Flow, and this episode has been researched and constructed on Garigal land in Sydney. Until next time, have yourself an awesome day.